Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Josh Taylor, Paul Zeise. We're taking your phone calls, 412-575-2600 on the Borders and Borders hotline. Before we went to break, we were talking about, Paul, the Steelers defense and what they did against New England. And the question was, can you expect the same or maybe even something close to similar against New Orleans? And we were talking about this during the break. I think we have the same conclusion. I think we both agree that the Steelers' defense, while doing a lot of things and making plays that were necessary, Joe Hayden's interception comes to mind, T.J. Watt getting the sack comes to mind, Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward providing a lot of pressure up front. Those are all great things. But I think you and I both agree that the Patriots were very uncharacteristically terrible last week.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. I hate having this discussion because there's certain people that say, oh, you're never going to give the Steelers credit. The Steelers played defensively played a really good game. But the 14 penalties, the holding calls, the false starts, the Brady missing a couple of guys that were open, the 4 drop passes,
there were a lot.
The fact that Gronkowski looks like he should probably retire, the fact that Edelman looks like he should probably retire.
I think we should just start and stop with just Gronk not looking like Gronk. He didn't look like the same guy.
He hasn't really looked the same this year, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
not most of the season.
He's old. I mean, here's the thing. When you're that big and you're that physical of a player, and you've taken as many shots as that guy does, and he's taken you can tell his body is just breaking down. I mean, he's just
not responding the same.
He's not. He looks slow. When he caught the ball, he's still strong as an ox, and he was able to turn and run a guy over for a first down. But and again, I'm not taking anything away from the Steelers, but my point is, I would be careful to come up with this this thing that everything was solved with their defense, and look at how unbelievable they were. I think their opponent had something to do with it. I don't think they're going to get 14 penalties from the Saints.
I would agree.
I don't think they're going to get all those holding calls go the other way when they're on the road. You know,
I would agree with that too.
I don't think, and I also don't think the false starts and stuff, because now the crowd noise is going to be the other way.
The other way. It's going to be in their favor, not the Steelers'
it's going to be a little different. And one other thing, the 2 running backs, the 2 receivers, I think all 4 of them are better than anybody that the Patriots have.
Alvin Kamara is so good.
Oh, I know.
Michael Thomas is incredible.
No, that's what I'm saying.
He might be the most underappreciated receiver. I say him and Adam Thielen out of Minnesota, the two most underappreciated receivers.
But you agree with me? I would say both running backs and the 2 receivers were better than anybody that the Patriots put out there last week.
Which is crazy to imagine, because the kind of efficiency that those guys used to work with, they just don't look like the same team. I will credit the Steelers with one thing. They were able to do a lot to confuse Brady, where he didn't see the same defense after the snap that he saw before the snap. They did a good job with that. So that's what led to Joe Hayden's interception. They did a lot of good things with that too. So I will say that much. There was a lot more there with they really keyed in and focused in on confusing Brady. Want to get to the phone lines here, 412-575-2600. We will start with Dave in Westview. Dave, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh.
How are you?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you also.
Hey, you know what? I think the Steelers got their confidence back. They're going to come out against Breeze. Look what Dallas beat them 13-10. They barely won last week, Monday night. I mean, what's your opinion, Josh?
The one thing I'll say about that game against Dallas, wasn't that game in Dallas, Paul?
On the road.
That was a road game. Now, and we just talked about this. Paul and you and I talked about this. Different animal in that Superdome as opposed to on the road.
Similar to the Patriots.
Losing record on the road this season. That never happens.
And that's the point. I mean, the Saints are a different team at home than they are on the road. The Patriots are the one team in the playoffs that probably absolutely needs to be at home in order to get to the Super Bowl.
I would totally agree with that.
They can't win. I don't think they can win a road game. Now if they get somehow, I guess they can't really. They probably can't pass Kansas City. Maybe they. I don't know. I got to look at the number. But if they can somehow get the #1 seed, I still don't think they get to the Super Bowl, but it gets a whole lot more interesting.
Even if you get past Kansas City, don't look past the Chargers. The Chargers are really good right now.
Yeah.
They're peaking at the right time.
I'm going to tell you.
Chargers are good.
And I'm going to tell you this much right now. The Steelers fans should be rooting hard tomorrow for the Chargers.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to tell you, the one team you don't want to see in the playoffs is the Ravens.
Totally agree.
And I mean, because I could see it now, the Steelers would be the 3 seed.
Oh, boy.
They say play the Ravens, who are the 6 seed, and then guess what? If they win, they got to go to Foxborough. That's a bad formula for the Steelers.
You don't want those problems.
You know, I think
agree.
you'd much rather see the Colts or the Texans or the Titans or one of those teams like that.
Let's get back to the phone lines. We would go to Al in Bethel Park. Al, you're on the Nightly Sports Call.
Hey, Josh and Paul. Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas to you, too.
Paul, I'm going to go somewhere. President Obama said people don't want to go, but I'm going to go there. This criticism of Mike Tomlin. Once again, he's clinched another non-losing season. Chuck Noll had losing seasons. Bill Cowher had losing seasons. A lot of these coaches around the NFL had losing seasons, have never been to the Super Bowl. This goes to the fan base of Pittsburgh, not all of them, I'm not going to do that, and some of the media. A lot of this criticism, it goes like Rod Rutherford, it goes to Cordell Stewart, it goes to Ryan Reeves, it goes to Big George Locke. A lot of the criticism, I'll say some of this criticism towards Mike Tomlin, to me, is racially motivated. I want to hear your commentary. Thank you.
Go for it, Paul.
I mean, of course. Of course some of it is. But here's the thing. Not nearly the percentage that you think it is. Steeler fans are crazy. They're nuts. They think they're supposed to get to the Super Bowl every year. Here's the thing. Some of the criticism of Mike Tomlin is warranted. And I think that sometimes people don't understand that it can be, you know, it doesn't have to be a black and white type thing, and I don't mean that racially. I mean, it doesn't have to be he's great or he's terrible.
It can be racially motivated while some of it's still being true.
Right. Well, no, what I'm trying to say is it doesn't have to be he's either great or he's terrible.
That's also true.
I think he's a really good coach who I think has some flaws in what he does that probably holds him back.
And distinguishable weaknesses.
Yes, and I think that holds him back some. And Absolutely. I think what people are frustrated with, and this is, to me, very fair. I mean, his first 4 years, it looked like this guy was going to be, you know, a Hall of Famer. He had won a Super Bowl. He had been to a second Super Bowl. He was, 5-1 in the playoffs or whatever. I mean,
couple of those years, his defense was considered one of the best in the league. Some were saying best all time.
But we're talking the last 8 years now. He's won 3 playoff games.
It's a much different dynamic.
And so, that's a body of work you look at and you say, well, yeah, and I think that the other part of it is, the Steelers have had probably some teams that have underachieved through that time.
Yes, absolutely.
So I think Mike Tomlin's a very good coach. I think he's a coach that's destined to be a Hall of Fame coach.
Yes.
I think this stuff about,
whether people want to accept it or admit it, he's on that path.
The stuff about firing him and all that stuff, it's silly.
It's really silly.
That doesn't mean he doesn't warrant some criticism.
Here's if I had to make a pie graph of the criticism that involves Mike Tomlin. We'll take some of that racial motivation because I think it's valid. It goes in there. We'll take some of that crazy that you're talking about. That's probably one of the bigger blocks of the pie chart. I'm going to go with expectations. Some of it may be a little bit unrealistic. I think that'll go in the pie chart. I think the changing dynamics in the league and maybe the ability to keep up with or in some cases not keep up with. I think that's a part of the pie chart. I think all those things kind of get mixed in there. Well, when people try to make it into one or two things, that's when it gets a little crazy because you have to look at it from the entire you have to step back and look at it from the macro.
Stephen A. Smith went there too, and what bothered me about him talking about a double standard for Mike Tomlin because he's black and this and that, and it's unfair how people go after him. And what about Sean Payton? The guy he didn't mention was Mike McCarthy, who has won a Super Bowl more recently than Mike Tomlin, who's won more playoff games in the last 8 years than Mike Tomlin.
Well, he actually beat Mike Tomlin.
And he beat Mike Tomlin in the Super Bowl, and guess what? He got fired.
And he got fired.
He got run out of town. So my point is there absolutely is a racial element when it comes to the criticism of Mike Tomlin. But it's not nearly what I think some people think it is. And I point to Mike McCarthy as that guy lived on the hot seat for the last 2 or 3 years, and they finally fired him.
I think the way you can look at those two guys is they're very similar as coaches as far as their trajectories. But at the same time, Tomlin still at least found a way to stay above that line where McCarthy, you saw it slowly dip below and never swung back around. We got to take another break. When we come back, we're taking more phone calls. Stick around.